Hey, what's up, everybody? I figure I'd get a chance to discuss my review about the much anticipated Devil Wears Prada 2, which comes about 20 years after the original film. And I will say it's absolutely worth the wait. Maybe in some ways even superior to the first film, even though the first film is still a classic. But um, in terms of those who may not be familiar with the story, the first film dealt with Andy Sachs, whose dream job was to be a journalist, and ended up working for Miranda Priestley at the Runway magazine, who at that time was known as the boss from hell, with her tyrannical means and treating her employers like crap. And then this time around, the sequel, taking place 20 years later, Andy's now a respected journalist for the New York Vanguard, but unfortunately, she ends up, getting laid off from her job during an awards ceremony, and of course, because of that, Andy ends up, going back, to Runway, dealing with Miranda again, but this time as a features editor for the Runway magazine, and of course, in the 20 years since, the Runway magazine has kind of fell through like some hard times, especially with like the digital age, making, publishing, not a thing of the past, but, it kind of changed compared to how it was 20 years ago. And then there's like a scandal in which, Miranda accidentally, vetted a piece that, for a clothing company that ended up supporting, kind of like sweatshop conditions. So, it's kind of like, the blunt sassiness that she had from the first one is kind of like toned down because of it. And then she kind of has to like, gain Runway's reputation back to its former standing. And I will say it's interesting to see how, much Miranda and Andy changed in 20 years, and interesting to see how the two of them, I wouldn't say like exactly like best friends or anything, but they tend to get like you would say like a mutual respect for one another, especially like Miranda kind of appreciates Andy's idealism, and kind of gives Miranda the spark she needs to kind of take control, back, at Runway. And of course, you also see Emily Charlton's character, who now works, for Dior after leaving Runway after the events of the first film. And there's also, Miranda's, I guess you would say, the closest thing she has to, friend Nigel, and of course, Andy's friend Lily from the first one, is also back working at an art gallery. And I would say, in terms of how the sequel held up, I mean, many people probably have their reservations that, the sequel may have not held up as well, compared to the first one. But surprisingly, it blew my expectations, and maybe to some extent even exceeded it. Since who would have thought, this, a sequel to Devil Wears Prada would happen, at least in a feature film form, even though there was the novelization. But the movie sequel kind of differs from the book sequel, and I will say overall it was actually pretty good, and I actually really enjoyed it. I mean, it's definitely something that I think was very well made, and the fashion was absolutely fantastic, and the scenery, especially when they go to Italy for the fashion shows, was absolutely spectacular. The cinematography was awesome. So that's my overall take on it. So I would say, for those that were a fan of the first Devil Wears Prada, then I would say the sequel is definitely a must-see. So that's that. I guess until the next time, feel free to like and subscribe to the channel, and hopefully I'll be back with more content soon, probably to discuss the long-anticipated Mortal Kombat 2 sequel. Until then, everyone, take care.